Hello and welcome to Narrowcast Boxing. It's June 30th, 2019. In this episode I'm going to review several fights which happened this weekend, and I'd like to start with Richard Commey versus Ray Beltran. This was an 8th round TKO victory for Richard Commey. He knocked Ray Beltran down 4 times in the fight, twice in the first, once in the 5th, and once again in the 8th. The final knockdown came from a left hook in an exchange which dropped Beltran. The referee called it off shortly after this, and I thought that was a fine decision. Overall, I thought it was an okay performance from Commey. He got the job done, but he really leaves a lot to be desired in the way that he fights. Beltran looked like his punch resistance was gone pretty much from the start, and that wasn't too surprising. But Commey really couldn't capitalize on having Beltran hurt. He charged in and got pretty sloppy looking for a finish. Beltran was able to counter Commey in exchanges, and I couldn't help but feel that if Beltran were younger and fresher, he might have been able to stop Commey. If the opponent was also different, I could see somebody with power catching Commey and finishing him. I have to give credit to Ray Beltran for hanging in as well as he did. He's always been a tough fighter, but this, I think, should really be the end of the road for him. As for Richard Commey, I'm confident that he'd lose to someone like Vasyl Lomachenko. I even think that Teofimo Lopez could beat him if that fight were made. Granted, we haven't really seen what level Lopez is at, but we have seen the level of Commey, and I personally think that Lopez could win, even though Lopez does have some flaws. I'd definitely like to see that fight next, though. Moving on, we have Demetrius Andrade versus Maciej Sulecki. Andrade surprisingly knocked down Sulecki within the first minute of the fight. It was a very aggressive start, which was unusual for Andrade. The aggression pretty much ended after the first round, though, and Andrade outboxed Sulecki throughout the fight and won every round on the judges' scorecards, which, in my opinion, was quite impressive, but the fight overall was pretty tedious, and I actually turned it off after 9 rounds. I really couldn't take any more. Andrade did well, but this wasn't really entertaining to watch at all. I actually think Andrade was a better fighter 3 years ago. To me, he's either regressed or has made no real improvement since then. I don't really have any proof for this, but it's just the feeling that I was left with. Overall, his offense, I thought, looked very novice-like, just winging wide punches with little effect. He's clearly a very skilled boxer, but this didn't really convince me that he has what it takes to be an elite middleweight. He's a tough fighter to really pin down and have a solid opinion of, and I don't know quite what to make of him or how he'd do against the other middleweight champions. I'd like to see him really tested moving forward because this was clearly too easy for him. If he isn't in with someone who poses a threat, then he's really not worth watching, unfortunately. Moving on, we have Erickson Lubin versus Zakaria Atu. This fight proved to be what I expected. Lubin fought well and used his jab effectively. He was aggressive throughout the fight and applied constant pressure. In the 3rd round, it looked like Atu tore his bicep, but he did continue on. In the 4th round, Lubin got him against the ropes and unloaded flush punches, which knocked him down. He did manage to get up, but his corner threw in the towel. This was wise considering the bicep injury in addition to the headshots. Overall, I thought Lubin looked good. He's clearly above European level, which his opponent was, and I'd expect to step up in competition for his next fight. I don't think he's quite ready to be in a world title fight next. I'd give him maybe 2 or 3 more fights before putting him in against a champion. I don't think there's any rush really at all. He's only 23, and he really has a lot of time left to learn and build himself up, and that's what I expect to see. Overall, I thought it was a nice performance, though. Finally, we have Jermall Charlo versus Brandon Adams, and this fight wasn't quite what I expected. Brandon Adams proved a lot tougher than I thought he would be. He managed to frustrate Charlo with quality defense and occasionally landing good punches, and he did a lot of clinching, unfortunately. He really made Charlo work for the victory, which Charlo did manage. The judges had it 120 to 108 times 2 and 119 to 109. I had it 118 to 110. I gave 2 rounds to Adams. Overall, I thought Adams was good enough and tough enough to hang with Charlo, but not really good enough to win many rounds. This wasn't a really nice fight to watch. It did have a couple of good moments, but overall it was kind of similar to the Andrade fight, that it wasn't that entertaining. Charlo overall in this fight I thought was just better. I did think that Adams showed some weaknesses in Charlo's game, specifically in terms of his offense. Charlo did look a bit basic at times and not overly creative. These are minor criticisms, though. I do think that Adams would be a tough opponent for just about any middleweight. I may have fallen into the pattern of seeing Charlo knock out so many fighters that I expect him to do the same with an opponent like Adams, but this proved to be an unrealistic expectation. I wasn't very entertained, like I said, by this fight, but it is a solid win for Charlo. I'd like to see him face another champion at middleweight if possible. He's proven he's deserving of a big fight at the very least. Anyway, that's it for this week. I won't be doing any previews in this upcoming week because there's really nothing worth mentioning. So, as always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.